All right. Welcome, one and all, to another magnificent Terran Tuesday, where we're going to go ahead and dive into the excellent topic of ghost ships. Not just those that really roam the seas, but those that we can find in a variety of literature and also the magnificent cultural references that inspire such tales. Black Knight, you almost got like a little bit of a hiss going on. I'm not sure if
Yeah. It's the cooler. It should
Oh,
be.
okay. You
Yeah.
probably could actually set your in the settings there within StreamYards. They should have like an echo cancellation or a noise cancellation. That might
Yeah. I
be
just I just stopped it, so I don't need it anymore.
righteous. Well, we got War Officer Grand joining us over here, our faithful few. How have you been, Black Knight? What is up? How's the last week been? How the last couple hours been? How are you doing?
Ooh. Yeah, I'm fine. I did achieve a lot of um, like goals today. Um, and even though I got tired a little bit more than usual, I'm happy to say that I have completed my first children's book,
Yeah,
which is it's titled Martian Papaya, and it's also set in my universe, but of course it's for kids. The parents and their kids who read it so far, they um, they think that it is in the like 8 to 12 range years
nice.
range, and so without giving too many spoilers, I can say that uh, it's primarily tailored towards like the boys, but it does have uh, a number of things which pretty much all of the girls who read it with their parents liked, including the cute sugar glider animal companion uh, named Papaya, um, who is accompanying the main character named Tim, who drives across the Martian highways. And this is the terraformed Mars of my universe. And he is on a quest. His parents gave him job to do, which is to deliver a container, as like a small container of prized Bulgarian cheese to his one of his many uncles. Um, and um, Shenanigans ensue. It's not like what it's supposed to be. A easy summer ride with his scooter across the roads, and he's not going that far. Turns into something entirely different, something which he is quite well prepared, um, but it's still unexpected. That's all I'm going to say. And yes, there is a chapter titled "The Great Cheese Chase."
No, that sounds fun. That sounds really fun. We're gonna have to dig into the process there. But RH Snow, how have you been? What's new? What you've been up to?
Very exciting because I actually got to go on a business trip. I don't get to do that much because usually we have, like I said, we have a lot of stuff tied up around here. We have, I said land and goats and horses and everything else. What we don't have usually is a lot of cash on hand because you got to feed all those critters. So my husband had a business trip where actually the client was the job was going to end up paying for it, and so I was like, oh, exciting! And it was in Corpus Christi, and Corpus Christi is a beautiful little town on the coast of Texas, out of the Gulf of America. And by the way, for anybody who wants to fuss about Gulf of America, as you know, in Latin America, the Americas are the entire continents of the North and South region. So it's in North America, South America. So Gulf of America is actually very inclusive. Thank you very much. Um, so we can say it that way. That's okay. It's everybody. But so we were out there, and it was just a beautiful night. And actually, that full corn moon rose over off of South Padre Island, and I got some beautiful shots. And I'm always, of course, very happy to be able to sort of tune in and see those wonderful things, and to get a glimpse of it on camera, because I love having a vision of what I saw. And I try not to live through my lens too much, because I've known people who that's all they did was they just took pictures. They never actually experienced anything because they were too busy taking pictures. But it was so pretty, and I was just so glad to be able to take it. And I don't get to go out too much right now because I have, like some health issues. And so I'm like I said, basically, I suffer from China doll syndrome, where I'm put on a pile of pillows and told to stay right there so I don't have a stroke or something. And so it's really fun to go to the beach, and I put my feet down in the sand, and then the waves came and they sort of pulled on your feet. Have you ever stood on the beach and like your feet get sucked into the sand?
Yes, I know exactly
so
what
cool.
you mean.
And
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought about the ghost ships, and because it was moonlit night, of course, and it was just gorgeous. And at the same time, there's that eerie sense you were staring out into the vastness of certainly the Gulf out there is just huge, and then out into the Atlantic, of course, beyond that, and the Caribbean, where so many wonderful pirate stories and ghost stories have been.
That's magnificent. There's a photo of my dog right here.
Yes.
Roll off the gram wanted to take a look, so
Good doggy.
for a second. Yes, he's actually right here with me right now.
He's a good dog.
He is a good boy compared to a lot of other dogs. We actually recently got ourselves a pug, a baby pug, so you can have a friend. Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
The pug is way more active than he is. He's just a lowly French bulldog, so he primarily just wants to play fetch and hang around, and the pug just wants to play all the darn time. And I know aboard the many ships out there, including the ships that have gone lost at sea, it was not too uncommon for them to bring along an animal aboard as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Black Knight, you are the one who actually chose today's topic. Would you want to go ahead and have the opening bows there for us? Go ahead and open up the gates to the conversation.
All right. Well, I could start with just like a little snippet, because you mentioned animals on board, and probably everyone who ever read or watched anything sail ship related, they envision a parrot, like the stereotypical pirate with a wooden leg with an eye patch and a talking parrot. Yeah, I mean, a parrot would be quite a lavish pet, actually.
True.
Yes, it's it's a talking pet, can talk, and probably be extremely entertaining for the crew, but they'll have to feed it. Otherwise, if you grab a cat or a rat sniffing dog, which they mostly had on the ships when they could, to deal with the rats, of course, which the endless scourge. Even today, on the metal ships, on the giant metallic ships, automated and computerized and GPS tracked and navigated through satellites and stuff. Even these days, they have the erodent problem on the
Ooh.
ships. So yeah,
I guess rats
and
really like ships, huh?
well, yeah, well, most likely they like the stuff that's on the ships. They can nibble and yeah, they like to nibble stuff. But I have a few short stories for you from the realm of the ghost ships and the ghost adjacent ships and the abandoned ships, and of course the I think the abandoned ships, like the mysteriously abandoned ships, are perhaps in American culture. They are the most well known and probably discussed. If correctly, if I'm wrong, um, but I will start with this. So as as a story device, like this, the threat of a ghost ship or exploring a ghost ship, it's ageless. You can write a story about a ancient Greek ship or ancient Egyptian ship or Phoenician ship or whatever, or you can write a story about sailing ship, of course, which they are probably the most widespread. And of course, in recent times, you have all kinds of ghost ship stories about modern ships, metallic ships made of metal. Um, and with them, it's not like that. There is an entire new dimension to the ghostly spookiness of the ghost ship, which is basically the size and certain technological advancements in shipbuilding and technological features of these ships, which perhaps, well, at least in my own opinion, I'm sorry, these technological gadgets they make the ghostly aspect of said ships and the mystery, they empower it, they make it stronger, better, and yes, of course, my forte would be the space ghost ships in space, because in space all ghosts can hear you scream. They don't care that sound waves are not like they do not travel through the vacuum. They don't give a ghostly shit about it. They can hear your soul screaming. So yes, we've had a few sci-fi movies with weird spooky ships, possessed ships even, like Event Horizon. Who watched Event Horizon?
I remember that one. Yes, yes.
That
Very
was
much
like,
a sci-fi ghost ship
yeah, yeah. That
slash
was
haunted
a
house.
class
Yeah.
horror. This is I assume that you would probably watched it because it was like really good horror, spooky story.
Yeah.
It's actually I think the main premise was that the device that they made was actually supposed to be like faster than light
Yeah.
generator. Yeah, it
Yeah.
actually sent the ship to hell and
Yeah.
then returned back. Yeah. So in um, for example, what I love to do with space ghost ships is to have them actually have ghosts.
Okay. Go.
Yeah,
I actually like that because you really don't get that much of a sort of a blending of hard sci-fi, and I guess what you'd call hard supernatural. It's usually
Yeah.
like you said, some sort of interdimensional thing, or maybe
Interdimensional shenanigans.
unknown alien species.
Yeah.
They stick with the sci-fi, but to really embrace the ghost ship
Gotta have ghosts.
story,
It's
yeah,
in the name. It's
you
in
want
the
to break
name.
into the haunting aspects for sure.
And so we have space ghosts because they're in space. Yes, and some could be okay.
Space Ghost.
Yes, I know that there is a character called Space Ghost. Sadly, I haven't watched the cartoon. I know very little about Space Ghost, but in the case of Star Shattered Universe, you have all kinds of not just ghosts, but like energy beings. Like in some sci-fi universes, you have energy beings, and they can transmute their self into various types of energy. Like let's say what some researchers call the poltergeist is actually, it's not a ghost per se, it's just a being which vibrates in a different um, dimensional frequency, different plane of existence. It's like occupies, um, according to some, occupies 2 or 3 planes, different planes. But in my case, I have the actual freaking ghosts, and some of them are unbelievably mad and evil. Some are not. Some you can actually negotiate with. If you have a gift, so let's say you're a telepath, you could even talk to them. You can see them with your eyes if you concentrate hard enough. You can spend some of your energy. Other than that, you have actual scanners, the devices. You can recalibrate them and detect the ghosts, and you can use certain technologies to talk to them. But in most cases, they won't care. They're there to possess the ship, and they'll be out to get you. And it gets scary. It gets real scary because most people, when they fly into space, they do not pack the necessary stuff which they need in order to survive a possessed ship, a ghost ship. They don't pack these things, and the bulkheads will not save you. These are
So
ghosts.
here's a question, because in your writings, are ghosts like established lore? Or are
Yes,
they like
yes, yeah.
legends?
They have been scientifically proven. You have actual scanners that you can pick them up on the scanners. You have the telepaths. The telepaths can talk to them. In many cases, they can help them send or banish them or destroy them. You even have guns, special beam guns, pew pew guns,
Spectral guns.
You have these too, but the most widely used in the Galaxy gun is called the particle beam gun, and it actually can deal damage to ghosts, but you have to, it's not easy to hit them because they are like swifty. They can get into things. They can possess people. There are cases where some of the older, stronger ghosts or powerful ghosts, they can simply kick your soul out of your body and take over your body. So yes, they are. It's crazy, and in many cases, ships which are possessed, they begin to, like, the technology which is still operational, let's say, it begins to act in ways not entirely intended for these devices to like, for example, you have this reactor, and it's you have a spirit inside of it, a ghost, and the ghost has evolved in its different spectral abilities and can change the nature of the energy which the reactor produces. So that's a possibility. Or they could possess the mainframe, and we're talking about like high space technology, have like really
Okay.
powerful computers. And in many cases, if the ghost is powerful enough, they could even meld with the mainframe and transmogrify from a spectral entity into a digital entity, and vice versa.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so they can pretty much like just infect the various components of a ship. Really,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
start to like take over, become
yeah.
the ship
This
in a sense.
it's I was inspired by a tale of a ship. It's like a ghost ship, which was a
Okay.
yacht. It was like
Yeah.
a little known tale here, and it was like a yacht, and this yacht was like I think 2 or 3 people can operate it, but it was usually one man yacht, these small ones. And the man who had this yacht was I think this happened in like the 60s, 1960s. And this guy was um, sort of an artist, like painter, if I'm not mistaken. And he vanished, and they assumed that because the Black Sea is that's why it's called the Black Sea, because it's like it's a stormy sea. And they assume that a storm may have got him, and he died in the sea. But one day, a ship saw the yacht, and the yacht was not damaged. Was just sailing. Even the main sail um, was okay, and it was just sailing. And they reported back, and they said, well, we saw the yacht, and it's not damaged. It was sailing, so they assumed that the guy was just like hiding in the sea, or just for some reason he became like recluse, a sea recluse. But others said, no, 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 no. This guy, he likes to like he likes his alcohol. He likes his food. He likes to go to certain art exhibits in like the big ports, and that's why he got the yacht, so he would sail between the ports. He would not be annoyed by cars and public transportation and bullshit. And so one day, a few weeks later, they saw the yacht again. And the ship which sighted it, they sent a boat. And of course, the yacht was empty. All the food was there, like the stock of food was there, canned food, etc. The alcohol was also there. The clothes were there, like the safety jackets were there, like everything, pretty much everything was there. And they said, okay, so probably a wave like pushed him over the overboard, and he died. It was like during a storm or something. And they towed the yacht like the back to one of the ports, the smaller ports. They towed it, and they tied the yacht to like the with the rope and everything. And the cops were involved. They said, okay, so we have to investigate. Maybe it was murder, because it happens. It fucking happens. And they posted a cop there. And the next morning, the cop was not found. The cop was missing. The yacht was missing. And the guy who was operating the light,
Like a
on
lighthouse?
lighthouse. Yeah. He saw the yacht, and he saw the man, saw the one who he actually personally knew him. So he couldn't be mistaken. He saw him, but he wasn't alone. The cop was with him,
Oh,
and
interesting.
he could swear that like the moonlight and the light of the lighthouse would be seen through their bodies.
Oh,
Both of their
okay.
bodies.
Spectral.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a local legend down there, is it?
Well, it's not well known. It was a story that one of the sailors told me many
All
years
right.
ago. So yeah, it did inspire me. And they say that uh, they eventually found the yacht, which after like a really
Again.
strong storm, yeah, they found it, and it was stuck like in the mouth of the Danube River. There were a number of like smaller so-called islands, which most of them are mud and sand. So it was stuck there. Um, the mast, the main single mast, was like broken, snapped, was missing, and they decided to tow it back to one of the ports. So the next day, and very early before the dawn, they went there, and they saw the yacht like swimming away into sailing away into the sea, deeper sea, and it had a mast and everything.
Okay. So some kind of haunted yacht,
Mm-hmm.
a ghost yacht.
Pretty much.
Very interesting stuff. Got a little company. Sammy's joining us. Hello, Sammy. Thank you for joining the
Oh,
stream. Interesting stuff. I know that there's many a tale of those because boat travel one point was the only way to get across the seas. And I know Snow, your writings are extremely inspired. And I know you got a few things to share with us about the old tales of lost vessels at sea.
Well, lucky me, I was raised by a man who had been in the Navy during World War II, and in fact sailed on some of the last ships that were wood and ironclads. He actually, that's how old I am. And he had a great love of the sea, even though he's from Texas. He joined the Navy, of course, for World War II. He actually joined before the war actually officially got started, because he was his father had died and he had to go make some money. So he was 15 years old and he joined the Navy. And he learned these incredible stories of tales of the sea and of the lore of the sea itself, and had this incredible love of lore. It's one of the places I get my love of lore and love of the supernatural. And that certainly is reflected in Watcher of the Damned and the ghost tales. In fact, the Watcher of the Damned opens with a ghost sighting. And that Ghost is a character in the book that will remain throughout the series. And part of that is due to my father's love of lore. But when we look at ships and we talk about ghost ships, we have to understand that a ship is considered to be an entity. It is a living, breathing creature. And yes, James, you're absolutely right that it is. That's how people got back and forth since the ancient of times. The sort of the time of the Greeks, where they were going back and forth, the Phoenicians on the sails of the seas, and how they had their oars and would plow through the through the Mediterranean looking for treasure and places to have wars and things like that. And then we also have to talk about, of course, the great seafaring peoples of the Pacific Ocean, and how they managed to conquer the Pacific from island to island. So this is the way. If the horse was on land, but it was the boat on sea that carried them across vast divides, and the stories are endless. A ship became an entity. It became a living, breathing thing, and it's still considered that today. Certainly, most ships are called her. They are taken care of as if they are living creatures because they have to have a crew to man them. And so it is a symbiotic relationship, that of the crew and the ship itself. And the ship is considered to be that living, breathing creature that if it is abandoned by its crew.
Oh, you kind of cut out there. Sorry, Snow. I'm not sure if it was just me, but you kind of cut out there. Was that just me?
Yeah. She also think I can't hear her. Maybe
okay.
it's some internet shenanigans. Hello? Snow? Can you hear us?
No, I cannot. Hang on.
There you go. Now I can hear you.
Oh, yes. No, phone is trying to cut out, so I have to make sure that I actually go up and go settings and shut off the magical thing that makes it turn off if I'm not touching it all the time. Darn it. So we'll go back to that in just a second. We actually have the ships themselves being living creatures, and so they demand that respect. They have to be put to rest like a person would. They cannot just be left out there. And if they are left out there, even if they don't have ghost crews themselves, even if they don't have bodies or a mystery surrounding them, they are still considered to be a ghost ship if it is out there and it's.
Another little cut off.
Yeah.
The wonders of technology at times can definitely stunt us in the production.
The wonders of internet.
If she were abandoned by her crew.
Yeah.
It's definitely quite fascinating as somebody who's quite a layman to the subject of ghost ships as a whole. I just pretty much know like some of the famous ones, Mary Celeste, the popular legends that I'm pretty sure weren't true, like the Philadelphia experiment, which fun book.
I can talk about the Philadelphia experiment. How much do you know about the Philadelphia experiment? Have you seen the movie, like the Hollywood movie about it?
I know there was one that I tried to check out, a black and white film, after reading the book titled The Philadelphia Experiment, but they were vastly different from each other, as the book was primarily about a group of gentlemen who went aboard the ship after it returned and then saw horrors throughout, as the movie was about gentlemen on the boat that I think they traveled back in time or somewhere else in a separate dimension, something like that. It was very strange, but ghost ships as a whole have been legendary throughout all of culture. And I'm pretty sure they even have some ancient ghost ships or writings of ancient ghost ships from civilizations past. So it's something that's haunting, in a particular sort of atmosphere that you're not really going to pull from a lot of other locations, which is why I see how being a science fiction author who writes about ships in space floating about, you can really pull a lot from this for the horror aspects. And I like how you don't sell out the supernatural for hard science fiction. But have you rejoined us down there, Snow?
Yes, I have. I was just waiting for you to get finished. I finally turned it off. I have kept on clipping out.
Perfect.
Yeah, when we're talking that when we talked about the ancient, certainly in Greek mythology, it talks about the ships in the high seas and how dangerous it was. And so we go throughout history. You've got these tales of ships that have been capsized or have their crews of the dead. And this is largely based actually on real life. There have been many notable examples of ghost ships certainly in modern times and historic times. You talked about the Mary Celeste, which for those who don't know the story of the Mary Celeste, where it was found, we'll just go ahead and just go a little bit over it, discovered adrift and deserted in the thing was off the Azores. And they actually found her that she was seaworthy. There didn't seem to be anything overtly wrong, but it was obvious that the crew was not there, and her lifeboat's missing. Last entry in the log was dated just days earlier, and she hadn't been heard from. Her cargo was intact. Captain and crew's items were still on board. No one had ever seen or heard from these people again. And so this becomes a great mystery because I believe this happens. It happens in 1872. And that fits in with the mystery of why the ship is abandoned. What happened to the people on board? Because certainly, although you might say, well, maybe they just, abandoned the ship and decided to go take off somewhere. But they were off the Azores. They probably, being experienced sailors, should have been able to make land at some point, unless there was a great, issue tearing them off. The current certainly strong out there. They could have drifted into the Sargasso Sea or something. But it's the nature of why they disappeared. And if you've ever watched the videos online of the ships, the great cargo ships on high seas, when the waves are crashing over the bow, you understand the mystery of the sea, the ocean itself. Of it too is a living entity, and it demands its dead, it demands its due. And so we have these two entities working together to create the mystery of the Mary Celeste. But there have been actual sightings of people saying that they have seen the dead aboard the lifeboats of some of these ships, that they would find lifeboats with bodies aboard them. And then they would hear tales of ships still sailing off in the distance. One of the things that people would see would be called the Morgana Fata, I believe. Let me make sure I've got that name. The Morgana is actually a mirage that takes place where it looks like something is above the horizon. And if you've been in the desert long enough, you will see that. It will appear that something is slightly elevated above the horizon. Frequently, it's cars on the road. You'll see what looks like them shimmering in the distance. It'll look like water in front of them, or like they're actually floating. On the ocean, this actually occurs, and the ship will look as if it's elevated above the horizon. And this gives us the tale of the Flying Dutchman, probably, where the
Fata Morgana. I think it's Fata Morgana. Yeah.
Fata Morgana. Yes. Thank you. I got it backwards, but I'm close.
Yeah.
I have a thing open in front of me, so I'm just remembering from memory. Good job. So we have this ship that's flying, that looks like it's flying there. And then you have a tale of a ship that this tale has been around so long that it actually is now folkloric. They're not really sure where it first really comes in, although it does have its mention, certainly by literature later. But the Flying Dutchman, where they are fated to drift the skies forever. And this has actually been seen in historic times and been reported. And so I think that, well, let's look at this for a minute. They believe maybe it's, the tale as it goes is that there's this gargantuan cargo ship probably from the 1600s and 1700s, the great wooden vessel with its sails fully blown, flying above the horizon. And it is considered to be a portent of doom, because it's surrounded usually by the myth that a man has been cursed, that he must fly the ship forever, the captain and his crew ghostly above the waters. And frequently the Flying Dutchman will be seen at first that it looks like it is in trouble. The ship will come on us alongside her, trying to help her. And then it will be something that happens where they realize this is not a real ship. This is the Flying Dutchman. And so it will call the other ships to them. They will see them sometimes just flying across. Other times it will actually be seen in the water, and then will be taking off in the distance, and they understand. And so we have Thomas Moore talking about written on Dead Man's Island in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, late in the evening of September 1804, and I'm reading this directly from him. Fast gliding along a gloomy bark, her sails are full, though the wind is still, and there blows not a breath to her sails to fill. The above lines were suggested by a superstition very common among sailors who call this ship, I believe, the Flying Dutchman. And then we have others who actually report seeing it, that they believe that they have actually seen the Flying Dutchman. This is 1881 off the coast of Australia by the Bashante. July 11th, at 4 a.m., the Flying Dutchman crossed our bows, a strange red light, as of a phantom ship all aglow, in the midst of which lights the mast, spars and sails of a brig 200 yards distant, stood out in strong relief as she came up on the port bow, where also the officer of the watch and the bridge clearly saw her, as did the quarterdeck midshipman, who was sent forward at once to the forecastle, that's the front of the ship. But on arriving, there was no vestige, nor any sign anywhere of any material ship that was to be seen, either near or right away to the horizon. The night being calm and clear, 13 persons altogether saw her. Now, this is the crew of the Pashante. At 10:45 a.m., the ordinary seaman who had that morning reported the Flying Dutchman, the one who saw it first, fell from the top foretopmast, cross trees, that's the top of the mast, to the top gallant forecastle, that's the front of the ship, and he was smashed to atoms. This is an actual crew, and the log, indeterminate as to which person it was. They believe it was Prince Albert Victor of Wales. It was his elder brother, and they are the ones with the HMS Inconstant and being repaired on the Bashante, making this report that they saw the Flying Dutchman itself, and that the man who saw it first falls to his doom to die. So this tale has been around, probably as old as time, has been repeated from the first seafaring peoples until now. And along with some that have been, actually, we always think of the wooden masted ships and the great brigands that sailed the seas in their pirate ships. But there are some that actually have been associated with modern day. And we say modern day, there would be ships that carry cargo and other things. There have been ships that actually have been out there in the weeds for a long time. They were abandoned, and then they broke free from their moorings and actually would take them off by themselves and would roam the seas as if they had a crew, and yet they didn't. The SS Bashimo, built in 1914 by Sweden, owned by Hudson Bay Company. It was abandoned when it became trapped in pack ice. And they came up and they said, okay, it was the town of Barrow. They were going to try to stay there while the ship stayed stuck in the ice. But she broke free of her moorings while the crew was abandoned. Obviously, she wasn't very happy about it. They see her again on October this 8th, about 7 days later. And they sent aircraft, believe it or not, to retrieve 22 of the crew who had tried to get on top of her and tried to bring her back. 15 crew were on board trying to stay, but a powerful blizzard struck as if it was trying to shake the ship apart. They concluded that they had to let the ship go. And this started an incredible journey of this ship. They believed that she would sink that year, but she didn't. Decades went past, and people saw the ship. They even managed to get aboard, but each time it was like seeing Bigfoot. They didn't have the proper equipment, or they weren't able to salvage. She was packed with expensive furs. The last time anyone saw her was in 1969, almost 40 years after she had been abandoned. She was still stuck off the Alaskan coast, and then she was never seen again. Ships that actually take themselves out as if they are living creatures to explore the seas, to go see things that no one would ever thought to be seen. They become living entities, and they become legendary in their own right. And so we have the two, the supernatural, the human crew that might be dead aboard. And then we have what seems to be an inanimate object actually come to life, to roam the seas and to taunt other sailors that really maybe she doesn't need them after all. They abandoned her and now she will go without them. And I find it fascinating that these tales still exist today, that we still have tales. We still have sailors looking for these ships, knowing that when they feel that thrill to see the unmanned boat, that maybe it means doom for somebody, but there's still an excitement and adventure there, the lure of the sea, the fact that we know so little about it. And Davy Jones' locker certainly is filled with the sailors that have gone before. And it makes sense that at some point perhaps they should rise again to take up the oars once more and float the seas just as they did in days of yore.
Well spoken, Lady Snow. You definitely show interest in this particular topic. That's for sure. You know, it's quite the interesting yet eerie topic in itself that I think it's hard for people not to get engrafted when they hear the legends.
So much of horror, and especially in seafaring stories, is centered around loneliness, around being lost at sea, or having something happen and nobody knows. In fact, when we look at stories, for instance, about Antarctica, The Thing, notably, about being in that isolated condition, trapped in an inhospitable place, the ocean is a lot like that. And one story that I want to share, which a lot of them people don't know about this one, they'll know about the Mary Celeste. I actually call it the Maria Elena to begin with because I've played Elder Scrolls so much. No, it's not. It's a Mary Celeste. But
I know.
The Jenny was a schooner. And it actually, I love this story. An English schooner. And supposedly it became frozen in an ice barrier of that Drake Passage in 1823. But in 1840, a whaling ship came by, saw it, and boarded it. The bodies aboard were still preserved by the Antarctic cold. And although people say this is unsubstantiated, there are others who believe it is true. In one Arctic expedition, the story was remembered again as somebody said they saw the Jenny with the body still aboard. Those frozen bodies still manning their post, still where they're supposed to be, and the idea that the crew didn't abandon her and that she still floats the seas somewhere. That if you find the Jenny, that perhaps you're the one, that she'll be special.
That's definitely a haunting one.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead, Snow. I mean, Snow, Black Knight.
Well, I have another story which I wrote for now defunct blog series, which is titled John and the Space Boat. So it's about someone who actually, like a spacer. This is Sea Wolf, but like Space Wolf, more like exactly. And he hears the tale from the man who actually saw the ghost ship. And he's not he's not that keen. He wasn't like initially he wasn't keen on finding the ghost ship, but like curiosity got the better of him. Even though he was already old, he was like, yes, I want to live my last like decades or something like in peace. But then again, okay, so but I'm still curious. I'm a human. I'm an explorer, even though I hold cargo most of the time. I want to see if that shit is real. And he he wasn't like, his ship was not just like Snow said. He didn't like, he saw Bigfoot, but he wasn't like fully equipped. I mean, he was equipped, but not that well equipped. And so he had to first to get to the place where the coordinates where the ghost ship was sighted. He actually had to go to the space which belonged to a pirate clan, and this is where I touch with another ghost ship, which is called the INS Bremen, warship of the destroyer class. Which this is not the sea ships. It's more like a Star Destroyer adjacent. But anyways, this is one of the first actual ghost ships which I wrote in my first intro book in Star Shatter. And this ghost story about another ghost ship, it actually reference, like, gives you a reference, gives the reader a reference of the Bremen. And this guy, this oldster, he is actually deep down, he expects, or like, no, he wants to find nothing. He like, the terror of that ghost ship is such that he actually wants to find nothing. But he actually finds it. And the thing is that let me see. I can read you that bit. It's just like a small passage, so it won't take long. But
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so this old guy, he's they call him Sonny. So this is him telling the tale. So he says, "See, second I saw this starship, this alien derelict. I knew it was old, ancient even. We spacers are traveled folk. Moreover, all of us make sure to study our craft well. The more one knows about the different types and classes of starships, the better. Therefore, and after I checked against the list of newly salvaged vessel shapes I had on my mainframe, I carefully approached it. The scrapper's job ain't easy, son. You can't just strap some alien, weirdly designed ship to your own and take it back home. No, sir. What if there is something dangerous lurking inside? If its mainframe is home to some malevolent AI bent on exterminating all biologicals? Some of these derelicts you find out there had really deadly, capable of resisting the vacuum of space viruses. Some had mutants, crazed cyborgs, even people who went mad during their voyage. That, or worse, the bodies of their long deceased crews might be possessed by some unlife entity. Whatever it is, the job of discovering what exactly was the reason why this ship became a derelict falls upon our shoulders. What did you find inside, Sonny? What, you ask? Well, the minute I got close, real close, to the derelict, and activated my sensors with the intention of running one long, careful, and, of course, passive scan, something caught my attention. I saw a light flicker reflected of the derelict's bent hull. It took me a few seconds to realize that it wasn't coming from my ship. And then it hit me. Someone was exiting hyperspace. First thought running through my mind was that the freaking pirates had found me somehow. I immediately drifted inside the derelict, and thankfully it had a gaping hole on its port side. And, my ship was small. Then, all systems off, my eyes feasted upon a sight most magnificent. This hulking, absolutely huge ship. It slowly flew in my direction, one of its enormous engines flickering. It was what I originally saw. That thing leaked dry plasma all over. It's barely functioning, but it still moved. Its hundreds of cannons also moved, their turrets protruding from the vessel's starboard hull, and they aimed in every conceivable direction. Was an ancient hulk, this one, not like anything I've seen before or after. Riddled with holes, armor plating bent and torn, this Leviathan was still operational, even with some of its decks exposed to outer space. 10 miles long it was, 10 freaking miles, and around 3 miles wide. Looking through another, much smaller hole in the derelict's hull, I could see a flash of light. The ship fired some weapon, barely visible beam. I don't know what it was, don't ask me, but it was powerful. While the hole I looked through was small, I did use my optics and saw what the Hulk fired upon. No, it wasn't at some planet or something like that. The ship fired upon another ship, which, after comparing the two, looked half Hulk's size. With one shot, only one, this other ship vanished without a trace.
Wow. Nice.
Very
It's
compelling.
basically this quite interesting to me um, sci-fi trope of
Yeah.
ancient empires which long lost to memory, but
Hmm.
their ships are still operational, and some of them they remember their programming. Their crews are long dead, or the crews are still the ghosts of the crews are still in possession of the ship, and they keep waging their ancient wars.
Uh-huh. What were some of the direct inspirations for this piece?
Uh, the direct inspirations were it was a story I read um, long ago. I think it was in one of these defunct fantasy slash sci-fi magazines.
Yeah.
One of our local ones. It was like
Okay.
I think it was they were writing under pen names, and I think that some of these like the authors were
Yeah.
local authors they were never published before, like indie authors from back in the day, and some I think were authors who published choose your own adventure books during the heyday of them
Interesting.
of
Do-
these. Yeah.
Here's a question for you. Could you get your hands on any of these old books to show them off?
I think I had
Interesting. That'd be
some of
cool.
the magazines.
Yeah.
I have to look for them. I'm not 100% sure,
Uh-huh.
but I will look for them.
That'd be a cool piece of history to,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
to look
I
upon.
had I had a bunch of them. I had like I think they were called the Mega magazine.
Mega
Uh,
Mag.
Mega magazine. It wasn't that thick. It's like a small magazine, but it had like a bunch of stuff. The like the one of the trad pubs sabotaged it because it was getting way like a bit too popular too quickly,
Oh no.
and they purchased like the indie publishing house, and they destroyed them.
Oh, that blows. Some
Well,
corporate
well,
sabotage.
it's not like it hadn't happened in the
Truth.
US.
Yeah, it's a corporate thing, I guess. People like to gatekeep their they want to gatekeep their industry so that way they can commodify it the way they think it should be commodified. Keep out the next big thing or strangle the arts. It's something we see far too often.
Oh, by the way, I found a picture of a couple of the it's like magazines.
Oh,
Let me see.
nice.
Uh, uh,
You should be able to share a screen.
I'll just try to. Let's see. Can I? I should be able to. Should be able
Yeah.
to send the link in the private chat, and you can open it.
Okay. Yeah, I could share the screen, I suppose.
Yeah, it's in Cyrillic, but
All right.
you can see the covers.
Okay.
Should be
Give me
able
a
to see
quick.
them.
Yeah, give me a quick second. Got a dog on me. Moving around a little bit now. My voice to shift. Okay. Here's the link. All right. Share screen. It won't be that big.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah,
small.
kind of small here. The mega. I
Yeah,
kind of like the art style.
yeah, it was like different artists
That's really
were
nice.
yeah,
Yeah,
different artists were hired for
the
each
covers and such.
issues, and they had like they had episodic um choose your own adventure quests stories in them, and also episodic serialized stories.
Right
And
this way.
when they screwed up the publishing house, they bought it. um, we were expecting that they would continue with publishing the magazine because it was like highly profitable. Pretty much every teenager back in the day wanted to buy it. um, they did not. That was
Oh, that's
really really strange. And years later, I discovered that they actually like which publishing house purchased it, and why they did it, and what happened to the actual like
yeah.
uh, the crew that was like the editors and everyone who, because you know back in the day you needed a full crew to set things up. It's not like now when with the help of certain like AI tools, and not just AI tools but like digital tools, you can pretty much almost do it by yourself.
Definitely, definitely. Baldwin, King of Jerusalem II, has joined us in chat. Welcome. Um, right, one of the best usernames in the world, I suppose. Welcome,
Yeah,
one and all. Um, Very interesting history there. You know, I'm always curious about the publications of old and the way they're sort of becoming sort of like eerie legends of themselves. You know, you go through the many videos on YouTube these days. You can find dozens of them talking about publications I've never heard of that were produced here in the United States, even as early as the 90s, that they kind of came and went, and they all had, or some of them had their mark on the industry and helped shift it or change it in some ways. And especially those foreign ones, because, there's always a particular type of accent to the stories you're going to find from different areas throughout the world, even when they're writing in something similar like science fiction. That sort of gets me curious of what are the minds from this region of the world writing about in this particular genre. What is that accent that they bring? That's always kind of.
I think that it's really interesting because we don't think of it now. There's a huge industry around sailing the sea still, especially cargo ships, and certainly the navies.
Yeah.
But we don't. It seems to be less. Uh, there's less of that type of genre right now, primarily because not everybody has been aboard a ship, and I think that a lot of people, they put it in a special sort of a rarefied area. But the genre was one time huge, and the subject of maritime exploration and horror was always sort of intertwined. And one thing that comes to mind that a lot of people may not know anymore is actually The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And I was actually, my father, because being who he was, he wanted us to memorize the whole thing. And it is a freakishly long poem. Not for that time even, but it's very long. And its subject, of course, is a ghost ship, actually, that is actually manned by the undying bodies of the crew, because of the curse, once again, much like the Flying Dutchman, of the Rime of the Mariner himself, who at the time was not old. He certainly wasn't ancient, but he shot down the albatross. And of course, the albatross is usually considered to be the soul of a sailor. That it is a blessing, and that you have the albatross with your ship. It remains still to this day an object of good luck, and the albatross is always protected. It is a sign of fair winds, and so the albatross is always treated as a guest, and it is not to be disrespected. And in the story, of course, being a young man and full of hubris, he shot the albatross, and it died and fell to the deck, and the ship becomes cursed. And Samuel Taylor Coleridge weaves such an incredible story with his imagery and his poetry of this man surrounded by death but unable to die, as one by one the entire crew curses him as they come to death. But he is cursed with living. He's not allowed to die. And instead he roams the seas, thirsty, unable to drink. Water everywhere, and not a drop to drink actually comes from this story. And he's unable to find anything to drink. And of course, he suffers, and he starts to hallucinate. And he sees the angels speaking about him, that he must do his penance. And he sees the dead about him, and they come back to life again. In honor of his last request, they come back to life, and they actually help him gain sail and go where he needs to go to be saved. And then they drop dead, for he has done his penance against his crime of killing the albatross. And so we have this fascination with the horror of the sea, of the loneliness, and to be surrounded by dead bodies and unable to do anything about it, unable to get yourself to a place of safety, and no water, no food. And we've lost touch with some of that in this genre. And of course, that can be reflected in modern literature. And certainly the sea is still as terrifying today as it ever was. There is nothing that has tamed the sea. There is nothing that you can build on the sea that will stand the power of the ultimate storms or the waves that come up. And so it is still a place of extreme horror and beauty and wonder for most. But a place that we don't look as often actually are aboard the rivers and the lakes as well. And some of the most famous haunted ships of all time come from the Great Lakes. And they are more modern in nature. They actually are ones that have been seen to go down in the last century. And people still can tour these areas with glass bottom boats and see the actual wreckage. Probably the most famous of those is the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And as you know, there's a song about it by Gordon Lightfoot on Lake Superior. And as we have Superior, they say never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early. This is the truth. For as you go to, and there's been many books written on it, it's actually famously celebrated. It goes down. Those crew members are still aboard the Edmund Fitzgerald. They never left. They did not abandon her. And because of that, that ship is their tomb. Still there to this very day. They have never been disturbed because that is their resting place. And the family members have declared it now that they will rest there forever. And they're, of course, memorialized in song and story. But there's another ship that's not quite so famous. And it's called the SS Kamloops. And it has a ghost on board even now. And he has been seen. If you go to Lake Superior with its waters that are so cold, it's only a couple of degrees above freezing, and you find the Kamloops and you make a dive, you'll find that it went down, if I'm not mistaken, in the 1920s. And when it went down, hardly anybody knew what had happened to her. There were so many incredible stories about it. People didn't know what happened. People didn't know what took place. But it was a terrible wreck. In fact, some actually made it to shore of a tiny island, and their remains would be found years later. One of the stewardesses aboard, where she left a note, "I just want my mom and dad to know what happened to me." And whereas the Edmund Fitzgerald sank in 1975, the Kamloops sank in the 1920s. It was 1927, actually the year my mother was born. And the entire crew went down. Everybody, it seemed like, passed away. 22 crew members were never seen alive again. But 1977, 50 years after the Kamloops disappeared beneath the waves, divers found her in the water, and everything looked so fresh. The shoes of the crewmen still in their little slots, undisturbed, unrotted because of the cold water. And as they made their way through the dive, going through the wreck, they turned a corner and found a white figure floating there. As they tried to back out, it followed them, bumping along behind them, staying always in that cabin area. But anytime they came near, it would float towards them. He's been given a name. The respectful call him Grandpa or Old Whitey. And if you dive to the Kamloops, you will meet him still. There are pictures of him, although people have said, please be respectful to the dead. There's one picture of him with his body half protruding. He's actually been turned into soap because it was so cold. He had underwent saponification, and his body, still in that ship, is now considered to be the resident ghost, the one who still is there. He never abandoned ship. And so he is celebrated, along with the ship, the Kamloops. They're together forever beneath the waves. And although divers do go, they respect his presence and always make sure to say thank you to Grandpa when they leave. Because you never know, but you might actually be gliding along the top of the surface of the water in a great lake somewhere, or down a river, or out in the ocean just fishing. You are sailing above the bones of the sailors who went before you, of the fishermen and all the others who wanted to be there as well. And they too have a story to tell. And who knows, someday you might join them.
Now that is a true ghost story right there, and told extremely well. See, this is an aspect of these stories as well. Not only are they historic, not only are they haunting, but you can share them in all mediums, including just what you did right now, and that is essentially almost like the equivalent of a campfire story. if you will, where they fit in just as well as they do anywhere else. These magnificent stories forever just frozen in time. And like you said, they're not from, there's some from not too long ago and some from decades past, where those who had experienced it have all been long dead in their entire generations with them. And yet still these stories persist. That's the magnificence of it. Black Knight, I know you got something to say.
Yes, this is like when Snow was telling this marvelous story about that ship. Um, I The last one that I want to tell, which is from again from Star Shattered, is the story of the Tri Ship Monument, which in the past during the fateful 1969 Pirate Lord Mayhem invasion of Earth. These were the ships, three ships. They were one was a U.S. cruiser. There were three. All three were cruisers, and they they fell in battle. But by falling in battle, there was such a battle, and their demise was such that they became they became eternal tombs for their crews, and also the pirates, the pirate marines and star warriors who assailed them. They are entombed there as well. So it is um, a thing of macabre beauty. This monument, and also grand cultural and historical significance, and it's being managed by veterans, like the very few veterans who actually survived this battle, um, and it's a place of pilgrimage where parents um, they take their children there to see who were the crewmates and the marines, the officers who died for them. And this is three ships are the INS Akira, the INS Lincoln, and the INS O. They one Japanese, one American, and one Italian. And they were supposed to be the beginning of a new class of ships, but in honor of their great sacrifice, they were not. Like they remained the only ships of their only vessels of their class. So it's it's something of as I said, a macabre glory, beauty, because for 39 hours they fought and died. They did not leave their posts. They died with their ships. And it's something which to this day still horrifies those who, like even the pirates, the clanners who actually survived and left because they left in a hurry, even though they came to conquer. And they still tell horror stories about these ships, even though they bested them, they defeated them, they boarded them, and they killed their crews and their marines and everyone. They are horrified because it's like these ships and the people who died on them, it's almost like well, it's not almost, but it is like a promise promise of a future which is inevitable, and they know that their clans, their pirate clans, they will suffer the same fate. One day, the ghosts of those who died there, the ghosts of those humans who died there, they will hitch a ride on some ship, some other Terran ship, and yes, they will find them, and they will have their revenge.
Nice, nice. I like how you added in some historical texture there, where the sort of like the locations were upkept by the veterans of the fight.
Yeah, it's still there. They maintain an orbit in space, pretty much exactly where the ships fell. They can join their hulls because it's much easier to maintain the orbit, and they have various fields which surround the entire monument. So people, if they are untethered, suddenly if they are untethered, because you have to have a spacesuit to visit, if they become untethered, they can catch them. So
Gotcha.
don't know. Yeah, they don't want to any of the tourists to suffer.
Roger that. But as we're closing in on the half hour, let's go ahead and wrap things up. We'll start off with you, RH Snow. Why don't you share some final thoughts on where people can find you?
Well, anytime that we talk about this paranormal or supernatural in literature and in real life, always drawn to the lore of it, to the fact that so many of us for centuries upon centuries, for eons, have been fascinated with this type of lore, and especially the lore of the sea, which for me, of course, is fascinating. I'm an inlander. I've spent almost my entire life inland, but having gone to the ocean this last weekend to see the magnificence of the moon rising above Mustang Island, and to see that vastness of it, and how beautiful and how mysterious it was, even then, to stand on the shore and to feel it call you. I can only imagine what it was like for the men and women who have gone out on the ocean. And for most centuries it was men, but yes, you had women aboard that would sometimes would be sailing from one place to another, and they too would be lost in the waves. There are places where no one has yet gone. There are portions of the ocean that no one has sailed, except for perhaps the dead. And as they make their way around the globe, it's only right that we should remember them in our literature, and perhaps consider those genres, that to bring it back into this 21st century time, to actually write of the ocean and its mysteries, and of the people who have been lost there and perhaps still roam the waves, seeking land so they may finally come ashore that one last time. Uh, I hope that, that as we continue to write and we incorporate these interesting lores and stories into our own writing, that we find that inspiration, that muse, and that little bit of thrill that goes up the back of the spine when you realize there are things that we still yet have not discovered about our very own planet. And most of it is out on the ocean. And of course, you can find me at watchofthedamned.com, where I have my series, which does have some seafaring in it, actually, believe it or not, because we get to go to the Port of Houston. And of course, it is a ruined Port of Houston. It is post apocalyptic. And we have to navigate that port to get where we need to go in Hellbilly Highway, which will be the 9th book coming out by this end, I believe by Christmas. We should have it. And I'm looking forward to releasing that. And you can find me there, or also at flow.page/rhsnow. That's flow.page/rhsnow. And I look forward to seeing you there. And I'll also be sure to have some stories for you about the ocean and the mysterious wrecks upon it.
Excellent. So Black Knight, where can people find you? And let's hear some final thoughts on the matter.
Well, I would love to right? Another dedicated space ghost ship story, and I will. I have been looking at one of the partial drafts that I had while we were chatting about the ghost ships and everything, and probably I'll publish it on my Substack. So yes, you can definitely expect something along the lines of what I mentioned earlier about the different uh, dimensions of spookification and uh, ghost possession on in space. Um, and yes, I do agree, Snow, that we need more of it. Perhaps more about any and all kinds of ship, ghost ship stories. Um, and the mysteriouser, the better. As for where you can find me, you can find me on Substack, the Black Knight, substack.com, where you can read my newest three stories and novellas and haiku and poems and tanka, which are older forms of haiku. Or you can go to Amazon and find all my Star Shatter books and my story collections, Mandate of Sword and Railgun and Blood of Tyrants, plus my 100% old school Shadow Fantasy book, Lord of Bones. So, indeed, I would love for you to crack open a paperback and read some.
Sounds awesome. Thank you all for joining us today. I was trying to get my sandwich image to work there, but it didn't want to. One of those technical days. I knew I was going to be on stream. I would have cleaned up my background. It's a mess back there. But thank you all for joining us today. If you're watching this on the replay, part of the replay crew, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Give it a thumbs up. Share with your friends. And come by next week because we'll be diving into another random subject because we definitely don't pre-plan those. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day and go check out Frederick's stream. He will be going live in about a half hour. So with that said, bye-bye, everybody. Have a good one.